Can question number one if needed for the... Okay, I see that, Phil. Gotcha. We'll be starting up in just about 15 seconds. It's just dialing out. It'll hit messages first, and then live ones will come in right after that. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. We're going to be on for the next hour with Don Itterberg. If you have a question of the man, please, by all means, press 0. That's 0 on the keypad on your phone. 0 if you have a question of Don. We're here to take questions. Don's here to answer them. If you want to provide us your email address, you press 7 on the keypad on your phone for that. And if you give us your email address, we'll keep you up to date with what matters between now and Election Day. So if you want to know what's going on with the campaign between now and Election Day, press 7 on the keypad on your phone. But the most important thing is we want you to ask questions, and the best way to do that, of course, is to press 0 on the keypad on your phone. Now, I do have a public service announcement to make. This Saturday, it's the 27th of Saturday, Don is going to be at Aim for More event at the Blue Court Shooting Center at 7860 West Jewel, and that's in Lakewood. There's going to be a barbecue going on. It's from 10 to 2, and why don't you come down and for some shooting if you're interested. Any questions, contact Ann at the campaign. That phone number is 303-462-0775. Again, Annie's number is 303-462-0775. We hope you'll come down. Now, again, welcome, everybody. Welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Don't be shy. Ask Don a question. Press 0 on that keypad on your phone. If you do have a question, we're ready for just about anything. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and do that. Meanwhile, we've got a bunch of people on the call already, Don. Why don't you take it away, and we'll get to questions as soon as we possibly can. Go ahead, please.
Super. Thank you, Kurt, and welcome to all of you who have joined the telephone town hall this evening. My name is Don Itterberg, and I am running for the 7th Congressional District in Adams and Jefferson County. I believe that the country needs to get on a different track. I believe that we need to build jobs, and we need a great education for all of our kids so that our future will be as bright as the one that I grew up in. I'm a small businessman from Arvada, and I am seeking office against a longtime incumbent. I believe that it's the agenda of the incumbency that has been the problem in America for some time. I'd be happy to take questions this evening and look forward to hearing what you have to say. And if we can take that first question, that'd be terrific.
Well, Don, if people, and they are queuing up right now, if you do have a question for the people just joining us, they need to press 0. So press 0 on the keypad on your phone, everybody that's getting a phone call right now. Press 0 if you have a question. Some are getting queued up, but we had some that came in earlier today. This one came in from Diane. What makes you different from Ed Perlmutter?
Well, thank you, Diane. I appreciate the question. As I mentioned in my brief opening, I am a businessman from Arvada. I've been in business for 35 years in the manufacturing sector. I am really interested in figuring out how to make the country better. I believe that we need to spend less money. We need to promote primary jobs. And I'm running against a fellow who has been in office for a lot of years. He's been in office since 1998. He's an attorney and a professional politician at this point. And I believe that we need to make changes and that people with business experience are just the kind of folks who ought to go to Washington and do it.
And this next question came in from Ben. And what are you going to focus on if you're elected?
Again, thank you, Ben, for the question. The first thing we need to do is we need to get jobs going in the United States to pick up this economy. Those kinds of jobs are called primary jobs. They're in the manufacturing sector. They're in the energy sector. They're in extraction. That means agriculture and mining. And they are the kinds of jobs that all of the other sectors of the economy depend. Obviously, you don't need someone to come and service the copier at your office if your business doesn't exist. You have to make some sort of a product or some sort of a sale, and those are the primary jobs that we need. We think about things like Keystone Pipeline or the natural gas that is so richly developed here in Colorado. We need to continue to expand that across the nation. And I want to focus on those things first. The second thing I think that is really primary right now is health care that works for everybody. We were all promised that we could keep our doctor, and further, we were promised that their cost of health insurance was going to drop by $2,500 per family. Well, neither of those things has actually happened. We see people losing their insurance left and right, and when they are able to get insurance back, it's at a higher rate than they used to pay. So I think that we ought to work on a health care plan that works for everybody in America. And thirdly, I'd love to see us get a balanced budget. We can't spend the kind of money that we're spending. We spend way too much. We spend so much that we have to borrow 40 cents out of every dollar that the federal government puts out. Well, if we can't get that under control, our kids and our grandkids are going to be saddled with debt for their whole lives. So, Ben, thanks for asking, and those are some priorities.
We're going to take our first live caller of the night. It's Lynn. By the way, if you do have a question of Don, just like Lynn did, press 00 on the keypad on your phone. Lynn, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Lynn, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Hi, I'm from Commerce City, and I'd like to know if you support the Keystone Pipeline.
Lynn, thanks for asking. I absolutely support the Keystone Pipeline. The number of jobs that would be created initially has been estimated somewhere between 20 and 30,000 just to get it built. But the very idea of being able to deliver new sources of oil to America without having to import them from the Middle East and places around the globe that we're buying from our enemies really is attractive to me.
Well, thank you, Don. Wanted to go with another question that came in earlier today. By the way, if you do have a question, press 00 on the keypad on your phone. We're actually going to take Trudy live next. Trudy, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Trudy, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Hi, I'm from Wheat Ridge, and I just have a comment real quick before I ask my question. About health care, I don't believe that that's something the federal government should even be involved in. Personally, I don't think we need to replace Obamacare. I think we need to get rid of it and let the medical industry and the free market take care of it. But as far as my question, I am wondering, as you said at the beginning, that incumbency has been an issue. It's really hard for a new person to come along and oust the incumbent, as you're trying to do. And I believe that our founding fathers never wanted Congress to become a career lifestyle for politicians. And I think that term limits for Congress would help mitigate that. How do you feel about term limits for Congress?
Well, Trudy, I thank you for all of that. Let me comment on your first part first. I agree with you. Health care should not have been taken over by the federal government. Health care in America has been the standard by which the world was judged, and I think that having the government step in and try to commandeer our rights in that area has been very detrimental. I think term limits are a great idea. I support the idea of term limits at the national level. When we understand how Congress operates, seniority matters, and to get work done depends on committee work, and the committee people are the most senior elected people. So I don't want to penalize Colorado by saying that we will impose term limits on our team if the other states won't impose those same limits on their team. If we can get this going as a national referendum, I certainly support it. I'm a businessman. I'm 58 years old. This is clearly not the career path that I set out when I was 22 and got trained as an engineer. But I find myself here because, as you suggested, I'm a citizen that thinks the country is going in the wrong direction, and I need to get involved to help get it fixed.
Thank you, Don. I want to remind the people that have just joined us, if you have a question, by all means, please press 00 on the keypad on your phone. And if you want to provide us your email address for email updates, please press 7 on the keypad on your phone. Email updates mean you get something from the campaign, tells you what's going on between now and Election Day. All right, we're going to do our first survey question of the night. The survey question is, there's 5 possibilities. You press 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on the keypad on your phone. Here goes with the question, what's the most important issue for Congress to address? Press 1 if it's immigration, press 2 if it's health care, 3 if it's the economy, 4 if it's jobs, or 5 if it's education. Let me repeat the question again. What is the most important issue for Congress to address? 1 is immigration, 2 is health care, 3 is the economy, 4 jobs, 5 education. All right, while you're all voting on that, we're going to take Joe. Joe, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Joe, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I would like to know what you're going to do about the health care for these young families that they can't afford it. What are you, when you get in there, going to try to do?
Thank you, Joe. You're right. I think what we've seen is particularly problematic for younger people. Years ago, when we had group health insurance plans that were often offered through business and what have you, the cost of insurance was spread across all of the age groups. Because of the way healthcare is now trying to be administered with the government right in the middle of it, the increased cost on young people has not been anticipated. And as I said to the caller a moment ago, Trudy, I believe that government's intervention in the healthcare system is doing the wrong thing. I would like to get government back out. I'd like to work on programs that have interstate competition. You can buy an auto insurance policy from Nebraska, but you currently can't buy a health care insurance policy from Nebraska. So since there is no competition, the price can stay where it is. Certainly we need to do tort reform, where doctors and nurses and hospitals are being sued for exorbitant sums, and we need to get the lawyers out of the middle of the healthcare system. And I think finally we need to recognize that some of the mandates that have been placed on our young families today aren't required. People have the right to buy what they need, not what the government tells them. And I think if we let them go back to a system that allows them to buy only what they want, they will make prudent decisions that will allow them to afford the care that they need.
Thank you, Don. One more time for the people are still joining this call, so if you do have a question, press 0 on the keypad on your phone. Press 7 if you want email updates. Before we go to Cliff, who's going to be our next questioner, I want to review the first poll that we did. It's what is the most important issue for Congress to address? 35% thought immigration was the top issue. Economy came in at 33%. 15% was healthcare, 10% jobs, education at 6%. So leading the charge was immigration and the economy. Don, your thoughts?
Well, we have been all over the district for this entire year, and everywhere I go, I am hearing exactly the same thing. The audience this evening is reflecting exactly the problem that we're seeing in America. We have a problem with people that come to this country with expectations that can't necessarily be met because they're not coming here legally. We have people that are in this country legally whose expectations aren't being met because people are coming here illegally. Neither group is being served. And, of course, when we talk about education and jobs and building futures for our families, we certainly have focused on the right issues.
Well, thank you, sir. We're going to take that live question. Like I said, it's going to be Cliff. Cliff, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Cliff, where are you from in the district, and what's your question, please?
I live in Westminster, Colorado, and my question is taxation of Social Security and retirement if your 1099 earnings is over, for example, over $44,000. You have to factor in 85% of your Social Security and pay tax on it again. And my question is why?
The why, I think, is pretty clear. We have tax policy in the United States that is actually not serving its purpose. This seems to be the only purpose of taxation is to continue to raise more and more money to fund the federal government. We don't seem to be working on the cost side to reduce them so that we don't burden our taxpayers. Now, as far as Social Security being taxed a second time, I got to tell you, I do resent that. All the years that you worked, you paid into Social Security, and you paid into it from earnings that you were being taxed on the entire time. And I understand that Social Security came across from your gross wages, but at some point you had to pay for the privilege to enroll in a system that the government told you had to participate in. So I don't believe that we ought to continue that. We need to find a way to reduce the cost of government.
Thank you, sir. We got another survey question. Who's to blame for the gridlock in Washington, D.C.? You have 5 possibilities. Press 1 if it's President Obama. Press 2 if it's House Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi. Press 3 if it's House Speaker John Boehner. Press 4 if it's Senate Democratic Leader Harry Reid. Or press 5 if it's Senate Republican Leader Mitch McConnell. So again, who's to blame? If it's President Obama, press 1. Nancy Pelosi, press 2. John Boehner, press 3. Harry Reid, press 4. Or Mitch McConnell, press 5. We really appreciate your participation in this. And by the way, don't hesitate to press 0 if you have a question. We're going to take Marianne next. Marianne, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Marianne, where are you from in the district, and what's your question, please?
Hi, I'm from Thornton, Colorado, and my question is, I do not like the federal government imposing on our public education, and Common Core has really taken over our schools, and I would like to know what you will do for the community to get rid of Common Core out of the state of Colorado completely.
Well, thank you very much. I wish I could say I had more authority than you may perceive to eliminate Common Core from Colorado. The Common Core is a set of standards that's selected by the Colorado State School Board and implemented by all of the school districts throughout the state of Colorado, and that's quite a lot of different groups. I share your passion, however, for getting the federal government out of the local educational scene. K-12 education should be managed by parents with the needs of their kids in mind, coupled with their teachers and local administrations. The fact that we tax people locally, send those dollars to Washington, tie them up with the Department of Education and send them back as block grants or things like Race to the Top, means that the federal government induces people to make decisions. So while I can't necessarily take the Common Core standard out from the state of Colorado's Board of Ed decision, I can work on whether or not we continue to fund education in the same manner that we do today. And as I said, I'd like the federal government out of education in the K-12 level here in Colorado.
We just did that survey. Who's to blame for gridlock in Washington, D.C.? At 40% was President Obama. 34% was Mr. Boehner. And at 20% was Harry Reid, and everybody else was minuscule. So President Obama was at the top of the chart. What are your thoughts on this, please, sir?
Well, there is no doubt that there has never been as polar or polarizing a president as we have seen, and we have never seen the House and the Senate quite as divided as we have today. We have lost something that we used to have in the country. We used to have statesmen who went and served in Washington, D.C., and they reached across the aisle, a term that is often much maligned. But if you think about some great leaders in our country, people like Ronald Reagan, who worked with then Speaker Tip O'Neill, they were on opposite parties, but they were able to put through effective budgets that helped the country go forward. That same thing was repeated when the role was reversed, when we had President Bill Clinton and Speaker Newt Gingrich. They also were able to work together. The idea that one branch of government can say to the other, hey, it's my way or the highway, has got to go. And I believe that we need to change that by changing the people who are in Washington doing the job.
We're going to do a quick ask. If you'd like to volunteer, press 1 on the keypad on your phone. Would you like to volunteer? Press 1 on the keypad on your phone. One of our volunteers will call you up and tell you how you can help out. So if you'd like to volunteer, just press 1 on the keypad on your phone. Before we get to Cheryl, I also want to remind people that if you had a question, please press 0 on the keypad on your phone. We're going to take Cheryl next. Cheryl, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Cheryl, where are you from in the district, and what's your question, please?
I'm from Thornton, Colorado, and my question is, according to a lot of the metrics online, you can look it up, Colorado has the #1 economy in the country right now, above any other state, and I'd like to know your explanation of how that happened with so many Democrats in charge.
Well, I think that's a great question. I think that when we talk about the number one economy and we look at those metrics, we need to understand in part how they're created. And certainly we have seen a change in unemployment in the state of Colorado. That results from two different things: people actually getting jobs and people who have quit looking for jobs. We have seen a decrease in the number of people looking for jobs simply because they haven't been out there anymore. But we've also seen a huge increase in the number of 30-hour-a-week jobs. People aren't working full-time necessarily. They're working at jobs that are beneath the skills that they have because they really need to work. They can't afford to live without a job. So we've seen people leave the workforce and decrease the unemployment number, or we've seen them take jobs that aren't necessarily what they want to be. Colorado has always been a great place to live, and so we do find that businesses that may come from out of state could locate here and can provide some level of support. I'm hopeful that that'll continue to happen. That actually is independent of the party in charge. That's really dependent on the communities that are already here and that they're working to attract businesses.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go to a question that came in earlier today from Erin. I'm a small businesswoman, and my health care costs are skyrocketing. I'm not the only one. What should Congress do about it?
Well, Erin, I share your pain. I am also a small business owner. We recently had our annual insurance checkup, and we have 52 health care eligible employees this year. After we got our checkup, it says that each employee is now going to have to pay $750 more per year, and the company share is going to rise by $60,000. So for our 52-person group, it's going to raise the cost to everyone involved by almost $100,000. Terrible stuff. Aaron, did you have a follow-up to that?
No, that was it. But I have another survey question I really want to ask. Where do you get most of your news? And this is a survey question. So if it's on TV, press 1 on the keypad on your phone. If it's radio, press 2. If it's the newspaper, press 3. If it's the internet, press 4. Or if it's none of the above, press 5. Where do you get most of your news? TV 1, radio 2, newspaper 3, internet 4, none of the above 5. If you have a question of Don, press 0, just like Michael did. Michael, welcome to our telephone.
Before we go on, let me finish the answer to Erin. I thought she was still on the line.
Oh, sorry.
She asked. That's fine. She asked in particular not only what the problem was, but in particular what should Congress do about it. And I think we had briefly talked about this a moment ago. What we really need to do is we need to substantially revamp or repeal the existing Obamacare laws and return control back to the local markets, where competition between people who want to offer that insurance for purchase can help drive the cost down. And further, the mandates that Congress is telling us we must have need to go away so that people can buy what they want, not what they're told they're supposed to have. Forgive me. Thank you, Aaron, for the question.
Sorry, I jumped the gun on that. Let's bring Michael back on right now if we can. Michael, where are you from, and what's your question, please? Go ahead.
Oh, it's my turn?
It is.
Oh, all right. I am from Arvada, and how hard do you think it's going to be to put the genie back in the bottle with Obamacare? Because it's not going to go away, and it's really got to be fixed. But can you put the genie back in that bottle?
Well, I think we can. I absolutely agree with you that the way the political landscape looks today, it's very difficult. But again, not being a long-time political person, I'm not a long-time incumbent, I'm hoping that there will be like-minded souls like myself who will end up in Congress who will take up the problem as something to be solved rather than a political football to be kicked around. What we're going to need to do is we're going to need to find like-minded people of both parties, or we're going to have to elect people that aren't there yet who are also from one or both parties who can stand against the onslaught. Clearly, the progressive liberal agenda of this president and the support that he's gotten from people like Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid got us into this mess. They passed a bill that the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, said, you have to vote for it to see what's in it. Well, that's irresponsible government. And while my opponent did do that, I am hopeful that we can still undo the problem by putting people in who will read the bills and who will have the practical experience with business and with the community to know that people can't afford what we're doing. So I am prepared for the battle, and I believe it's going to be a long one. The Republicans have proposed some 40 to 50 different fixes over the last several years trying to make Obamacare work. None of them have been accepted by the Democrats. We talked about the polarity that's in Congress. We have to fix it by changing the people we send there.
We have a public service announcement to make before we take Tamara. This Saturday, the 27th, Donsky, he's going to be at Aim for More event at the Blue Corps Shooting Center at 7860. That's 7860 West Jewel in Lakewood. There's going to be a barbecue. It's from 10 to 2. So come for some shooting if you want to, if you're interested. If you have any questions, talk to Ann at the campaign, 303-462-0775 is the number, 303-462-0775. Hope to see you there. And as promised, we're going to take Tamara next. Tamara, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Tamara, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I'm from Northglenn, and my question, it's a two-part question. One is, do you seek God in your decisions in running? And do you, the other question is, do you support home-based businesses?
Tamara, thank you, and thank you for your thoughtful questions. You know, I do seek God in my decisions. I've been an elder in several churches over the last 20-some years, most recently in Evergreen at the Bergen Park Church and at Lookout Mountain Community Fellowship. And yes, I believe that we are to be a praying people. It was actually John Adams, one of the authors of the Constitution, who said that the Constitution is only suitable for a moral and religious people. And we are charged by our heritage, whether we are Christian or whether we are not, to be moral and to be seeking the face of God. Now, the follow-up to that question was, I'm sorry, what's the second half?
Do you support home-based businesses?
Oh, home-based businesses. Well, of course I support home-based businesses. You know, I mentioned earlier in the call that I've got 52 employees eligible for health care, but when I started out in business 25 years ago, I didn't have nearly that many people. We were a real small shop, and we were just trying to get our feet wet. And I think home-based businesses are not only fabulous incubators for what can become later, but they are some of the niftiest, most creative little businesses that exist. And they are quite capable of supporting people and should be honored for their work.
Thank you, Don. We want to do a quick survey question, then we're going to take Charles right after that. Do you believe that the country is headed in the right direction, or are we on the wrong track? Let me say the question again. Do you believe that the country is headed in the right direction, or are we on the wrong track? If we're going in the right direction, press 1. If we're on the wrong track, press 2. If you're not sure, press 3. So, are we on the right direction? 1. Wrong track, 2. Not sure, 3. Press 0 if you have a question. Charles is next. Charles, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Charles, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Yes, I'm from Federal Heights, Colorado. And my question is, how do you feel about the Keystone Pipeline coming through, and do you feel like it will decrease the price of our gasoline cost, and also about the opening up of federal lands up in Montana and North Dakota where they've got the largest oil deposits in the world of sweet crude? Are you in favor of the Keystone and open up the federal lands to drilling up there?
Charles, thank you. I absolutely am in favor of those things. Developing the domestic energy sources is critical to not only cost management, but it also constitutes a wonderful national defense hedge. If we're buying from overseas from people who don't like us, they clearly cut off our source of supply, and then we're without. As far as Montana and other states, of course we ought to be drilling on those lands. The fact that we live here in Colorado also we're one of those states where we have a huge amount of land controlled by the federal government, and then our access to it has been curtailed because we can't get permits unless the feds tell us that we can. Keystone is an example, perhaps, that we all point at because it's become a bellwether over the years of a project we all know that would benefit the country, but that has not been allowed to proceed for political reasons. It needs to be completed as soon as we can do it. As far as the cost goes, I think there's another piece to that, and that is not only will we build pipelines and extract the oil and energy from the ground, but if we build additional refining capacity, then we will be able to make the gasoline that you're asking about locally, and we won't be importing so much of that. We haven't built a new refinery in the United States for quite a number of years, and so our capacity is somewhat restricted.
Thank you, Don. In review of the last poll, is the country heading in the right direction, or is it on the wrong track? Wrong track, 76%. Right direction, 14%. Not sure, 10%. So leading the way by far, wrong track. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, obviously, I am in this race because I believe we're on the wrong track. I don't believe that we're developing our young people's skills so that they can leave high school and move on to gainful post-secondary opportunities. I believe we spend too much money. Well, we can't continue to do all the things we do. There's no family on the planet that can live with the amount of debt that our country is racking up every day. I believe that we need to fix the healthcare system so that you can get the doctor and the insurance you need. I mean, there isn't anything that I'm running on that is more important than getting this country back on the right track. I've had the wonderful experience of living the American dream. When I was a kid, my parents told me to do my best and work hard and that I could succeed. And I've had that opportunity. I got a chance to go to college. I got to train as an engineer. And then I found a man who was willing to sell me his business. And I spent 5 years working for him, just paying off the debt that I owed him to buy his company. And then we've had wonderful success because of great people who have worked for me over the years, and I'm so proud to be associated with them, that we're now a much bigger organization. And I want that. I have 5 kids, and I have it's 7:30. I wonder if I have 7 grandkids yet, because we're expecting our 7th today. So I'm hopeful that my daughter will call. Maybe interrupt the call, Kurt. Sorry about that. But,
well, that would be great news. That would be just great
news. But, the American dream is alive and well, and we need to nurture it. But if we don't do something soon, I think that those grandkids are going to be deprived of a wonderful thing that we've called an exceptional America.
Well, we're gonna ask this real quick question. If people want a yard sign, or if I was up in Canada, a lawn sign, press 1 on the keypad on your phone. Would you like a yard sign? Press 1 on the keypad on your phone, and we'll make arrangements to get you a yard sign. Okay, the other thing is that last call for questions. If you've got a question pending, you want to ask it, press 0 on the keypad on your phone. And if you'd like to provide us your email address, press 7 on the keypad on your phone so you can get email updates from the campaign. 0's for questions, 7's for email addresses, 1's if you want a yard sign. That's a lot of numbers. Anyway, we'll get out of the numbers game right now. We'll talk to Carl. Carl, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Carl, where are you from, and what is your question, please?
My name's Carl, and I'm from Northglenn. My question is, what are your thoughts on our current foreign policies, and in your opinion, what needs to change moving forward?
Carl, that's a big question. Let's start with the most current, and that is that on Monday night, the president chose to execute the plan of bombing the ISIS terrorists who are obviously doing harm in Syria and in Iraq and trying to take over space that we had there some time ago. I don't know if that's the right plan. I don't know if pinpoint airstrikes will be enough to knock out a determined ground force. I pray that we do not go back to war with ground troops. I've heard some of the generals say that may or may not be possible. For the moment, I'm going to pray for the folks that are in harm's way and that our leadership is going the right direction. In a broader sense, I think we need to define what it is that we want to do when we are projecting power around the world. When we have strong domestic policies, when our economy is robust, our people are hard at work, and we are able to maintain forces in the field, we project strength by power. During this president's administration, we have seen soldiers in Afghanistan receive pink slips in the field. I think that is reprehensible. When you have folks that you are trusting to protect your country, you need to honor them far more than to dismiss them when they're in an active combat area. So let me net that down to, we need a defined strategic foreign policy that allows the exceptionalism of the United States to be projected, and that we need to maintain peace through strength, as we have done in the past.
Let's take Mike next. Mike, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Mike, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I'm Mike. I'm from Henderson, Colorado. And just basically, what is your stance on illegal immigration?
Hey, Mike, thanks for asking. Well, you know, part of the answer is in your question. You know, if it's illegal, we probably shouldn't be permitting it. You know, we have the right as a sovereign nation and the responsibility to set the rules for people that come and go to the United States. By not living up to our side of those rules and protecting the people who are already here in this country, we do them a disservice. Many of those immigrants have come through natural processes and have gotten here to become citizens the hard way. In fact, my daughter-in-law, we actually had to sponsor her citizenship. She was a young lady who had married my son, but because of these arcane rules, we were not able to get Maria Jose to become a citizen, even though they were married. So I sponsored her citizenship because that's the right way to do it. Now by not taking care of our own borders, we send a message to other people outside the country. You can come here and get all of the rights and privileges that are associated with being an American citizen. And that's not fair. They can't get all those rights. All those things are not guaranteed to them. So very simply, I believe that we need to enforce the laws that are on the books. I don't think we need to do an awful lot more than that. We sure need to protect the folks who are here.
Thank you, sir. Let's take Pam next if we can. Pam, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Pam, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I'm from Thornton, Colorado, and my question is, what about the people who had pre-existing conditions and the people who just flat couldn't afford health care before Obamacare, like my family? Now we're covered under Medicaid, and we weren't before. What about all those people? What do you say to those people?
Well, thank you for asking the question. I think you've indicated the right answer. Medicaid exists to provide that coverage for people who are unable to purchase insurance, who have gone through whatever economic challenges that they don't have the money to do that. That's what Medicaid is for. I'm concerned, however, that we now have 20% of the population of Colorado receiving Medicaid. If we've done such a good job making insurance available for everybody, how come so many people are now dependent on the government? I believe we need to bring the cost of insurance down so that it's affordable to people who need it, and so that you and your family can get what you need. And I think that's indicative of the problem we have today. The cost of insurance, or the cost of health care, is rising, and we're seeing more and more people having to depend on an outside agency like the government to provide it. Get the government out of the way, let competitive forces work, reduce the amount of regulation that drives up cost, and let the cost of insurance drop so people can afford to buy it.
We have a question from that came in earlier from Ian. Some people haven't gotten the message that they're trying to take away my guns. Do you support the Constitution or not?
Well, Ian, thank you for asking. I guess he's not on the phone right now. It came in earlier. I understand. Okay, well, Ian, thank you for asking. I do indeed support the Constitution. I have received an NRA A rating, which is the top rating that they can give. As a matter of fact, Kurt has been giving out the public service announcement that we're going to have our Aim for More event down at Blue Corps on Saturday, and that is a recognition that we have the right to keep and bear arms. It's the Second Amendment to the Constitution, and it is a right that is guaranteed to Americans.
And that barbecue and shooting is from 10 to 2, and it's at 7860 West Jewell. So if you want to come down for some shooting, if you're interested, and there's a barbecue involved, again, 10 to 2 on Saturday, come down to 7860 West Jewell. This is Saturday on the 27th. If you have some questions, you can call in at 303-462-0775. All right, we're going to take another question if we can. It's going to be Jackie. Jackie, welcome to our telephone town hall meeting. Jackie, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
I'm from North Glen, and this is Jackie from North Glen. And you sort of answered a question or brought it up a little bit ago. My question is, I hadn't heard anything about the seniors and what this health care has done to the seniors of Colorado. And
well,
I'll
that
tell
is
you,
a great question.
yeah, the Medicare has done terrible things with the new Obamacare, and has cost the seniors a lot.
Don?
Yes, indeedy. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, you are so right. If you remember some time ago when Obamacare was being proposed, we saw the shift within the budget of some amount of money that was pretty dramatic. It was several $100 million, as I recall. We have two systems here that are important to seniors that they depend upon, and they are, of course, Social Security and Medicare. These are those things that you build up for a lifetime so that when you get to your older years, they're available for you to support you. We have seen the decline in dollars from the Medicare system propping up this other system. And I think I've probably made the statement several times that the cost of health care in the United States is rising, and it's not necessarily because of just the cost of insurance. The cost of care is rising, and for seniors particularly who need elder care, who may need assisted living care, who may need a whole bunch of different things that they don't need when they're younger, this presents a real problem. I continue to advocate for the repeal or substantial overhaul of this Obamacare system because it is not efficient. We need to make the provisions that people need available, and Medicare is one of those systems, but we can't continue to suck money out of one pocket to try to put it into another pocket to provide a benefit that doesn't do the job. People have relied upon these things, and we have to protect them.
Question that came in earlier today, the person's not on the line right now, but earlier from Tom, why isn't anybody responsible for the VA scandal gone to jail?
Wow, there's a tough question. I don't know the answer to that question, actually. I can tell you that I certainly understand the reason that question is being raised. To suggest that we may have lost as many as 14 veterans in the Phoenix area because they weren't able to be seen on time really should be considered criminal. We've seen the resignation of General Shinzeki, who was the head of the VA, and who said, he was responsible perhaps. But we have to consider overhauling that Veterans Administration system completely. Here we have in Aurora what should be one of the finest hospital opportunities for veterans in the United States. We have a major teaching university, CU, coupled up with a major Veterans Administration hospital. That project is now years overdue, hundreds of millions of dollars over budget, and I think it points to an inefficiency in the VA that really needs to be scoped out. Whether or not we can figure out who needs to go to jail on this, I'm not sure.
We have run out of time. We were going to go for the time we did, and we're getting up to it. And if you could give us some final comments. But before that, if anybody did have a question they didn't get it answered, leave us a voicemail at the very end of this call. Leave us your name and your phone number and your email address so we can get back to you even quicker. Don, bring us to the finish line if you would, please.
Well, thank you, Kurt, and thank all of you who joined us on the call this evening. Clearly, I believe that the country is on the wrong track. I believe that we need to get the federal government out of the education system here in Colorado and let our kids in K to 12 really get the teaching they need from the local folks. We need to improve the job opportunities for Coloradans and all Americans, and we need to quit spending so much money, whether it's on health care or whether it's on services that the government shouldn't be involved in. Either way, we need to look at reducing the debt. A balanced budget would go a long way to helping that. My name is Don Itterberg. It's spelled really funny. It's YTTERBERG. You can get more information at itterbergforcongress.com, and I would greatly appreciate all of your votes as the ballots come out here in the next couple of weeks. Thank you, and God bless America.